everybody, welcome back to our last video in our grass brush series. Today we're just going to go over how to make a custom thumbnail and tweak this a little bit if we want for our brush. So first we're going to do the custom thumbnail for our brush, so that way when we go to select it, I think it was this one, yeah, this one, we don't have it looking like another brush. We want it to look a little bit unique. So we have a couple options. We can actually make a brush icon ourselves if we'd like, or we can just use the grass, brush itself, which I'm going to do. So as you can see, I have a white background, I have the grass here, and I'm actually going to label this in the top. I'm going to say, might be a little too much. Let's see, we'll say grass. I'm just going to call it O2 because maybe other variations of this won't use the same brush settings and I may want to save individual brushes for these. So I'm just going to call it grass O2. And I'm just going to save this because this can be hidden later. And now we're going to file save as, and I'm just going to do a JPEG and hit save. So now that I have grass 2 and I saved it, I'm going to go back up to my brush editor. Alright, so now that we have this open, we want to go to overwrite brush preset. We're going to go to load image and then make sure our little icon here is loaded. You can clear the thumbnail, you can load it from icon library. So if you want to use one of these and then one of the brush icons, make your own little combination here, you can. You can change the color, do all sorts of crazy stuff. You can load it from the scratch pad, which is when you're testing things out in here. You can load that, whatever's in this little box. You can load it from the scratch pad. You can load the existing, which is like the default that we used before to make the brush. You can clear it if you don't like any of it. And also paint in the area. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit save. And now our grass pattern brush. Go back here. Hit all. I saved 2 by accident. There we go. I'm actually going to delete that one. So if you're new to the brush editor, you can go ahead and delete things you've made. I don't need that one anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and assign that to, it already has. Okay, it's already in there. Go back to my custom tags. There it is. Okay, so I had to refresh a little bit, but now the icon is no longer that pen. It is now the grass. So if I want to go back and change the thumbnail, I would probably lower the grass O2. That's kind of not like perfectly visible, but that's okay. Just to get the point across, we can do whatever we want. So now we have our custom thumbnail. So whenever I go to do the grass, I know exactly what brush that is. I no longer have to guess like these blank ones, which are a mess and need their own icons that I will eventually get to. And I can go ahead and mess with it as needed. Now, if we want to do some other things here, we're going to duplicate that, turn that off, turn that off. I mentioned in the last video that we may want to kind of soften the bottom here. So I'm just blending it. So it kind of blends in with the grass or the background of whatever we have going on later. And if we want, we can also make this a color, which I will just make it more of a yellowish green. And just kind of color over that. So we have an actual grass brush. I'm just going to save my Krita file here. All right, and now we're going to save our actual brush. I'm just going to call it brush O2 color. All right, so now we have our grass here. Go back to our grass brush, and I'm just going to swap out the brush tip. So nothing else is changing. And see that it is that green automatically, but if I change the color anywhere else, it's still going to change to that color. If I do a gray, it is still gray. If I do a dark green, it is that dark green. But our brush setting does have a lower opacity on it, so it kind of builds up. But you can see now, if I do a lighter color here, how this is actually going to start blending in a little bit better to the ground. So it's not as harsh as we had it before. as we're building this up, it's just going to make it a little bit nicer to look at for the blending. It's not as harsh. It looks pretty nice. I like it. And if you would like, you can actually go back to your editor here and you can play with the colors and darken it. So as you're working, it's going to change how that looks. So if we take that off, it's just green. We add the darken. It does some crazy spooky stuff there. Looks pretty neat. You can change the hue. It's kind of like mixing the colors of what the brush was, I believe, and the color you've chosen. You have the actual hue, so it's just changing color itself, which is pretty cool. You have saturation. And this is all being affected by pressure, by the way. I just want to give like a quick look what you can do with the color. So less pressure, less saturation, more pressure, more saturation. And the value. So this is going to be how dark or light something is. So if I do lightly, it has a, let's see. All right, so a harder brush stroke is lighter, and then the softer is the darker. We have airbrush, which doesn't really look any different to me. And right. So if you want to start messing with different color tones on this, I probably would work with hue the most for something, not hue, saturation or value. That way you can kind of make some cool stuff with your foliage brushes, especially with trees. That way you can, I don't know, just would make things a little easier, I think, versus trying to change the color manually. All right. And that's really it for this series. So now we've made our brush, we have the ability to modify it, make a variation of it, just import the brush tip to change it. We made our thumbnail and we play with the color options on the brush settings, and now we can go make a ton of other brushes. So really your homework is just to finalize your brush, play with the other settings in here for color, especially if you're doing something like for trees. If you want to override it as a new, you want to overwrite those changes and keep that as your new your default brush that we made, you can, or you can just save it as a new one. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching this series. If you have any questions about the brush settings, let me know in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them as always. And if you know someone that needs to make their own brush, especially for like foliage or grass in general, make sure to give them this little short series. I'm sure it will help them out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.